John 7:4. Nemo quippe in occulto quid facit, et quaerit ipse in pallam esse. Si haec facis, manifesta te ipsum mundo. For no one does something in secret and seeks to be publicly known. If you are doing these things, make yourself known to the world. Now, you may have noticed here for John 7:4 that the English is doing quite a lot of work in the translation, and what we're going to try and do in this video is link up what I just said with piece by piece, more literally, what the Latin words indicate to us. It's sort of hard to translate this verse too literally without making gobbledygook out of it, but that just means we have more interesting things to say as we go through it word by word. So first of all, Nemo. This is one of my students' favorite words. It comes from nullus homo, no person. And it reminds all of us, hopefully, of Captain Nemo from the famous story. Captain who is mysterious and enigmatic, who lives up to his name, nobody. It's almost as though he's not there. That might help you remember. If it does help you remember, remember it. If not, forget about it. Okay, so Nemo quippe. Quippe here. Quippe can mean a few different things in Latin. Here, it means something more or less equivalent to nam or enim. That is, it's a particle that introduces an explanation. So this is Jesus' brothers still speaking, carrying on from John 7:3. Remember, they're telling him, you should go on, you should leave this place and go on into Judea. And now they're giving him the reason for their advice. So, Nemo quippe, in occulto. And this prepositional phrase could have been rendered in other ways. In occulto, occultus here, the adjective, is functioning substantively to mean in secret, something like that, in a hidden place, literally. But this could also be expressed with an adverb, and we're going to come back to that when we talk about pallam, which is an adverb used in an interesting way in the next line here. So just put a fork in that for the moment. So no one does anything. Now quid really here is aliquid, any sort of thing. No one does anything in this way in secret, and at the same time, and this is kind of a key idea here, what they're saying is nobody does both of these things at the same time. Nobody does anything in secret and at the same time himself, and I'm undecided personally whether this has its true intensifying force here. I think maybe it does. It doesn't always in the Vulgate, but here it does sort of make sense. Himself seeks after or pursues this quality or state, namely, seeks to be in pallam, literally kind of out in the open, except pallam is an adverb here. It's an indeclinable adverb being used with in as though it were a simple noun. But it's not a noun, it's an adverb and an indeclinable one. So that's a little bit curious. Now, pallam is part of a class of very interesting indeclinable adverbs in Latin, which indicate to whose view a particular action is exposed. So there's one, clam, which we could have used, or the translator rather, could have used instead of in occulto, because it means in secret or privately. Okay, so we can mark that here just so you remember. Then we've got pallam, which means publicly or kind of in full view. And then we've also got another one, coram, which means in the view of or even in the presence of a particular person or group. And you might think of the phrase coram Deo, in the presence of God, that perhaps you've seen before in theological context. Now, in that case, we get coram Deo somewhat confusingly because Coram, in addition to being an indeclinable adverb, can also act as a preposition that takes the ablative. But we don't need to worry about that too much right now. Suffice it to note, this is a class of adverb that can be really useful. And there's some interesting proverbs and sayings in Latin. I'll just quote one from the early Latin epic poet Ennius, who used the phrase clamque palamque, which literally means in secret and out in the open. And these are kind of coordinating ques here, as though he said et clam et palam. And the scenario in which you could use that sort of phrase or expression is to say, for instance, he's the same man in private and in public, in secret and out there in the world, perhaps if you were praising the consistency or integrity of somebody's character. So that's a nice little phrase that you can incorporate into your Latin living and thinking and speaking and hearing life, if you so choose. But hopefully that helps you remember this class of word, and again, makes crystal clear what's happening with palam here. So this is kind of a circumlocution in summary. Nobody does something in secret, and at the same time, Jesus' brothers are saying, himself seeks to be well known, seeks, as some English translations say, to be a public figure. But literally means seeks to be out in the open, out in public. In other words, to be well known. Then there's kind of a pause here just before C. If you do these things, or rather, maybe we could use the progressive present here, as some translations do. If you are, it's sort of implied, already doing these things, and then here is an imperative. Manifesta, make te ipsum, yourself known to the world. Reveal yourself to the world if you're already doing these things, and enjoy the fama which will result. Now, that is not Jesus' priority, as we'll see.